Before No Man's Sky became a meme, before it became a case study, before it became a redemption story, it was just an idea that sounded impossible. Hello Games was never supposed to make a universe. They were a tiny studio based in the UK, a few developers working in a small space, making modest games that sold quietly and moved on. Their earlier titles were fun but forgettable. No awards, no massive fan base, no pressure. And that's exactly why No Man's Sky even existed. Because when you're small, you're allowed to dream big. The core idea was almost stupidly ambitious. What if, they asked, we didn't design the world, but designed the rules that create the world? Instead of artists manually building every mountain, every tree, every creature, they would build algorithms. Math would do the work. The computer would generate planets endlessly, following a set of rules that ensured variety. This concept is called procedural generation. It existed before, but never at this scale. 18 quintillion planets. That number wasn't marketing fluff. It was a real calculation. So large that if every human on Earth visited one planet per second, it would take billions of years to see them all. Suddenly, No Man's Sky wasn't just a game. It was a headline. Gaming websites picked it up instantly. Infinite universe. Explore forever. Every player's journey is unique. And then came Sean Murray. Sean wasn't a showman. He wasn't loud, he wasn't confident. He spoke like an engineer, not a marketer. But that honesty made people trust him. When he said the universe was shared, players imagined encounters. When he said discovery mattered, players imagined deep systems. When he spoke carefully, audiences heard certainty. But here's the crucial detail that changed everything. Sean never said many things directly. He answered questions simply, sometimes vaguely, sometimes optimistically, and the internet filled in the rest. Can players meet each other? Yes. That single word created 1,000 expectations. Massive multiplayer, space battles, trading hubs. But in reality, the system was far more limited. Technically possible, but astronomically unlikely. The difference between possible and practical was never explained clearly. And that gap became dangerous. Sony entered the picture. Suddenly, this tiny indie game was on the biggest stages in gaming. E3 presentations, PlayStation showcases, cinematic trailers. The tone shifted. No Man's Sky stopped feeling like an experiment. It started feeling like a promise. A promise of freedom, a promise of infinity, a promise of something gaming had never seen before. Internally, the team was already struggling. Deadlines tightened, pressure increased. Every demo needed to look better than the last. Every interview raised expectations further. And yet, the team stayed small. No massive expansion, no army of developers. Just a few people trying to finish a universe. By the time launch approached, something was clear. No Man's Sky could never match the version living in people's heads. But no one wanted to say that out loud. Not the developers, not Sony. Not the media. The train was moving too fast, and it was heading straight toward August 2016. August 2016 arrived like a storm. Gamers worldwide waited eagerly. Pre-orders had skyrocketed. Streams were planned. YouTube videos were scheduled. The hype had reached a fever pitch. And then, launch. The servers handled the load. Steam pages lit up. PlayStation Network traffic surged. Millions of players booted up No Man's Sky at the same time. Initially, everything seemed fine. Planets were colorful. Spaceships glided through space. The procedural music played softly. The UI looked sleek. The universe was vast, stretching further than any map had before. But soon, the cracks appeared. Players noticed repetition. Planet landscapes started to feel familiar. Creatures were strange, yes, but their behaviors were simplistic. The universe, while technically infinite, felt hollow. Then came the biggest shock. Multiplayer. Players tried to find each other. Countless hours spent on coordinates, speculation, community guides, but standing on the same planets at the same time yielded nothing. No encounters, no cooperative exploration, not even a single sign of another human player. The internet exploded. Forums lit up with anger. YouTube videos criticized. Memes mocked the promise of the shared universe. No Man's Lie, the biggest scam in gaming, and countless other derogatory phrases dominated discussions. Media outlets jumped in. Headlines were scathing. The game that lied to millions. Refunds requested in droves. Sony under fire.
Even reviews were merciless. Scores plummeted. Sites that had once been excited for the game now turned their attention to its failures. It wasn't just a bad launch, it was a global embarrassment. And then, silence. Hello Games vanished from the public eye. No tweets, no statements, no attempts to defend themselves. The face of Sean Murray was suddenly absent from interviews. Websites speculated endlessly. Gamers assumed the worst. They ran away. They scammed us. They lied and cashed in. But behind the scenes, a very different story unfolded. The small studio was in crisis mode. The team was exhausted, mentally drained, threatened by online harassment, facing legal pressures. The weight of millions of disappointed fans pressing down was crushing. Sean Murray later admitted that he couldn't even read social media. Each comment, each tweet felt like a personal attack. Any word from the studio could make things worse. So Hello Games did something counterintuitive. They decided not to speak. Instead, they worked. They returned to the studio, focused on code, fixes, and features. No promises, no PR campaigns, just action. It was a gamble. The public was angry. Investors were wary, but they kept building. Months passed. Then came the first update. No announcements, no marketing, just content. Base building was added. New survival mechanics were implemented. Visual enhancements improved the atmosphere. Slowly, players started to notice. This feels better, someone posted on Reddit. Then another update. Then another. Each update brought meaningful changes, and each was free. No microtransactions, no paid DLC, just commitment. The foundation for redemption was laid, but the turning point was still to come. The second chapter of No Man's Sky's journey is where the real story of redemption begins. After the tumultuous launch, the small team at Hello Games worked tirelessly. The updates rolled out quietly, almost like whispers to a gaming community still skeptical and bitter. These updates weren't flashy. There were no trailers, no announcements, but they were meaningful. First, base building was added. Players could finally construct structures on planets, personalizing their environment and claiming space in the vast universe. This small addition transformed the experience. No longer were players just observers, they became creators. It allowed expression, goals, and attachment, which had been missing at launch. Next, survival mechanics were refined. Resources became meaningful. Planetary hazards challenged players. Exploration was no longer just wandering, it carried purpose. Even the visuals saw subtle improvements, making planets more immersive, more believable, more alive. The gaming world was skeptical. Forums were cautious. YouTube content was still often critical, but the tides were slowly turning. Players began to whisper that maybe, just maybe, No Man's Sky was starting to find its footing. Months by, Hello Games remained silent publicly, but relentless privately. Each update added more substance. Creatures became more complex. New ships introduced variation and gameplay depth. Story elements were incrementally included, giving players reason to explore beyond just survival. Community feedback, carefully absorbed and analyzed, guided development. Then came the moment that changed everything. The next update. This wasn't just another patch, it was a rebirth. For the first time, true multiplayer was implemented. Players could see and interact with each other. The third-person perspective gave new ways to experience exploration and combat. Visuals were overhauled, dramatically improving the sense of immersion. Worlds felt alive, rich, and shared. It was a universe, finally, that matched the promise. The gaming community noticed. Videos began shifting from mockery to surprise. YouTubers who had once condemned the game now highlighted the improvements. Friends joined friends and shared adventures. Complex bases became community hubs. Expeditions offered structured events, encouraging collaboration. VR support elevated immersion to unprecedented levels. By this point, the transformation was undeniable. No Man's Sky had become a beacon of commitment, of perseverance, of silent dedication. A game that once was laughed at became the embodiment of redemption in gaming. The lesson was clear. Even a disastrous start can be overturned with determination and transparency through action. It wasn't overnight, it wasn't easy, and it wasn't perfect. Every new feature carried risks, bugs, and challenges, but Hello Games embraced each challenge, prioritized player experience, and delivered consistent, substantial updates. The community slowly shifted from skepticism to cautious optimism. Old criticisms became discussions of improvement. Memes transformed from ridicule to admiration. Players started documenting discoveries in No Man's Sky as if chronicling a living universe. The universe, once empty and mocked, now thrived. And so the game that launched as a joke was beginning to be understood more than just a game. It became a symbol that small teams could dream big, that silence, when paired with meaningful action, could be more powerful than any marketing campaign, that the promise of a game wasn't just where you delivered at launch, but what you were willing to build afterward. No Man's Sky, piece by piece, update by update, proved that a bad start is not the end. The updates kept coming, one after another. Each patch refined mechanics, introduced new content, and addressed lingering player concerns. The small studio's approach was deliberate. Instead of chasing hype, they focused on depth, quality, and longevity. Every update became a statement of commitment. Hello Games began expanding the universe in ways no one anticipated. Planetary diversity increased. Weather systems became dynamic, affecting gameplay strategies and survival strategies. Flora and fauna grew more intricate, their behaviors influenced by ecosystems and interactions, creating emergent experiences. Players now encountered animals that adapted to their environment and each other. It wasn't just exploration anymore, it was life, simulated in real time across an infinite cosmos. Underwater worlds were introduced, opening vast new territories for exploration. Submersible vehicles allowed deep-sea adventures with unique creatures and rare resources. This was not a simple graphical addition. It required complex systems to simulate physics, ecosystems, and gameplay mechanics underwater. The detail and realism impressed players and critics alike, proving that Hello Games was serious about evolving the universe. Expeditions became a major feature. Structured, goal-oriented events encouraged players to travel together, face challenges, and unlock unique rewards. For the first time, the universe felt interconnected. Individual exploration became a shared experience, tying together the community in ways never possible before. Players who had abandoned the game during launch returned to witness the rebirth, intrigued by these social and collaborative experiences. Simultaneously, story elements were integrated. Instead of a single linear narrative, Hello Games introduced lore that unfolded gradually, allowing players to discover secrets, piece together the history of civilizations, and immerse themselves in the mystery of the universe. This storytelling approach respected player agency, giving the sensation of being part of a living, breathing world rather than following a predetermined path. Graphics and visuals underwent continuous enhancements. Textures, lighting, planetary landscapes, and space environments improved dramatically. Each planet felt unique and alive, increasing immersion and player satisfaction. The attention to detail encouraged discovery, exploration, and sharing. Videos showcasing beautiful landscapes and rare encounters proliferated on social media, generating organic marketing and reigniting interest in the game. VR support was another turning point. Players could now step directly into the universe, experiencing a level of immersion that few games offered. Spaceships felt real, planets felt tangible. The infinite scale of the universe became more impactful, and players experienced exploration with unprecedented presence. This addition brought a new demographic to the game,